This was quite a very brief appearance. The bail wasn't opposed by the state, and in fact there were representations that were made by the accused. Now this relates to fraud and corruption charges, particularly in relation to kickbacks that were given and received to and from Bosasa, and this was during the time that Dudu Myeni was the SAA board chairperson. And some of this relates to security upgrades that were allegedly performed at her home. But all of this coming after an intensive investigation from the investigating directorate, which ultimately led up to them handing themselves over to police this morning before that appearance. We did try to speak to Dudu Myeni as she was making her way into the Richards Bay Magistrates Court, but unfortunately she didn't want to speak, and she in fact at some point grabbed our camera as well, indicating that she wasn't willing to comment then. I'm now joined by Sindisiwe Siboka from the investigating directorate. I think important to start with that investigation itself. You know, you'd have people that were saying it's about time, others that are speculating about whether these charges would stick. Talk to me about what you've uncovered so far, which ultimately led us to this point where we are now.
So I think it's very key to put on record that this is the fourth Bosasa-linked matter that we've enrolled, and the other three are proceeding quite well in the various courts. One was actually in court yesterday pertaining to the 1.8 billion Bosasa Correctional Services matter. So this is a spin-off of various cases linked to Bosasa. So the investigating directorate has been working very hard around matters pertaining to the gratifications, the kickbacks, and that pertain to Bosasa and the undue favors that they got through various tenders within the state machinery.
So how did this work in practical terms? We're talking about two accused here giving and receiving these kickbacks. Just give me an idea of how it actually worked.
So in terms of the charges, it's corruption and fraud that these accused face, but Ms. Dudu Myeni, who was a former chairperson or board chairperson of SAA, we're alleging that she received gratification of over 300,000 rand. 200,000 pertains to the security upgrades of her premises here in Richards Bay, which we are alleging that Trevor Mathenjwa, who was Sondolo IT, a subsidiary of Bosasa's director, we say that he then facilitated or was the hand used to then have the security upgrades done for over 200,000 for her premises. Then we further say that Ms. Dudu Myeni further benefited in terms of lavish travels, hotel stays for herself as well as those close to her to the tune of over 107,000 rand. And this pertained to around the time when she was the chairperson of that particular board. And what we're saying is that according to the SAA's own policies, she had to then have declared her interests and benefits which she had received from Bosasa and or its subsidiaries. So we're saying that she did not do that.
Well, her time there at SAA was shrouded in controversy, and the state capture report, I think, spoke to that, as well as the misrepresentations she allegedly made. Can you explain to me, you know, in terms of your investigations and what has come out of the state capture report, how do the two actually tie together?
So for starters, I think I need to put it out there that the state capture recommendations are a blueprint, not necessarily, or a map, not necessarily what we rely on for our investigations, because you know that the legal questions to be answered or the scale in which to be used are completely different. The Commission relied on probabilities, we beyond reasonable doubt. So yes, it assisted very much in terms of the Bosasa leg of our investigations. However, many of this had already been declared prior and had been done independently. However, much of the assistance from the recommendations and the Commission has assisted us to get here.
Appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Sindisiwe Siboka, there from the investigating directorate. You know, this matter will now be back in court on the 17th of November, as you said, Maseko, but it does seem that the state will also be applying to have this matter moved to Gauteng, because it seems to make sense. Some of the witnesses come from there, as well as the other accused, Trevor Mathenjwa. So it's likely that the next time we're in court, that is what will transpire.
All right, senior reporter Dasen Thathiah live for us there in Richards Bay with more clarity around this case pertaining to former SAA board chairperson Dudu Myeni.